Hi there, it's Lezli. Thanks for joining us for our On the Yard edition of Impolite Conversation, where we explore race, culture, and societal issues through the lens of HBCU students. On the Yard happens every Friday.
Hi, I'm today's co-host, Nava. Today we're going to be talking about streaming wars, who has some of the best content, and what in the world happened to Quibi. We're really excited to explore this with two students. I'll let you two introduce yourselves.
My name is Tennille Mack. I'm a current graduating senior at Spelman College from Harlem, New York, studying art history and international studies.
Hello, my name is Shasa Revell. I am a senior marketing major with a concentration in entrepreneurship at Howard University, and I'm originally from Philadelphia, PA.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So there's so much content out right now. Obviously, we have Netflix, Hulu, and we have Disney Plus, HBO Max, and probably other things that I can't even think about right now. Too many to name. But we're definitely going to talk about who we think has the best content. But before we talk about that, let's talk about Quibi.
So yes, let's talk about the epic failure of Quibi. So Quibi shut down 6 months after its launch. A little background on Quibi. Quibi was founded by Jeffrey Katzenberger, founder of DreamWorks Pictures, and was led by CEO Meg Whitman, who was the previous CEO of Hewlett-Packard. The company raised $1.75 billion to get the app off the ground from Alibaba, media giants such as Walt Disney Company, NBC Universal, and AT&T's Warner Media. Quibi was created to provide short-form videos to young users via mobile. Most videos were 7 to 10 minutes in length. And I want to just reiterate that you were only allowed to watch these videos on your phone. According to a March 2020 article published by Variety, for the April 6th Quibi launch, the U.S. programming slate featured originals with Jennifer Lopez, Chrissy Teigen, Chance the Rapper, Liam Hemsworth, Sophie Turner, Lena Waithe, Nicole Richie, Reese Witherspoon, and more. The startup was paying top dollar to these Hollywood A-listers, with executives shelling out as much as $6 million per hour for production budgets. They were offering a 90-day free trial to those who were signing up on its website before April 6th, and then the regular monthly pricing was set at $4.99 with ads and $7.99 no ads. And they had planned to release, I think, 175 original shows with 8,500 episodes in the first year. So I am curious, did any of you utilize the free trial or subscribe to Quibi?
Not at all.
Yeah, me either. Nope.
Okay. And before I told you about this conversation, had you heard about Quibi? I'm curious.
Yes, I did, like from ads and things like that.
Yeah, from ads too.
Yeah, for me, I feel like I might have seen some advertisements here and there, but I never went to download the free trial.
Okay, it just didn't pique your interest.
Yeah, like I just felt I was okay with what I currently had. I didn't really see from the advertisements it pulling me in. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, there's so many streaming services out there. What makes this one different? And I don't know if I really saw that with the advertisements that were shown.
Yeah, I agree. And especially with that marketing towards being able to only use it on your phone, that was not at all of interest to me, especially that I'm constantly on my phone in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
According to an Axios article published in October, Quibi's business model was contingent on having enough subscribers and viewers to sell lucrative ads. A similar model to the video subscription streaming service Hulu, which essentially means the ad-supported plan. And Hulu's ad-supported plan is $5.99 per month versus Quibi, which was $4.99. So what streaming services do you have access to either through a family plan or through your own subscription? And what types of plans are they? Like, do they have ads or are they ad-free?
For Hulu, I have the $5.99 ad plan. And then for Netflix, I have the pretty general plan. There's a whole bunch of users on there. I don't really know because I'm using a family's account.
Yeah, same. For Hulu, I did have the basic package that included the ads. But since I've been home, I've actually discontinued my Hulu account just because I feel like I've tended to watch more Netflix. I didn't know if I was getting as much bang for my buck using both. I really didn't watch Hulu as much at home when I was home. And for Netflix, I also have the basic plan. It's through my family. We all use it. I think we have like 4 screens that we can utilize in one sitting. We also have Disney Plus as well, but that's like through family. So I don't pay for it.
Oh, yes, I have Disney Plus as well. I had Amazon, but I wasn't using it as much. So I got rid of it.
Our family, we have HBO Max and Stars through our TV provider. And then Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix, all that through family as well. But personally, I pay for my Crunchyroll subscription, which is $7.99 a month, and that's without ads. That's for anime, K-dramas. It will give you the episodes as they air in Japan.
I actually forgot to mention Amazon Prime. I have watched Amazon Prime. We do have it. But with Amazon Prime, I tend to watch older shows or movies that maybe I haven't seen in a while. I'll just catch up and binge watch like some of my favorite classic shows. But I don't really go there for new content as much.
What shows are you watching on Amazon Prime Video?
When I was watching it and catching up with stuff, I watched A Different World, shows like that, just catching up on those shows. Especially when I was on campus, I would just watch that and catch up on episodes that I miss. Most recently, I did watch the Fenty fashion show, but generally, I don't go there as much for my content.
So obviously, Quibi shut down after 6 months. They argued that months of stay-at-home lockdowns pushed consumers to TV streaming services and away from mobile-only video. But TikTok gained massive traction during that same time period, even while facing regulatory battles. I have 5 daughters. So obviously there's Nava, who's 19. I have a senior at Spelman. She's 21. We have an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old. And I think I have a good understanding of how at least my young people consume content, like what they're looking at on their phone versus what they're looking at on their computer. And I'm curious. I have a question. So Quibi's model was you can only watch this on your phone. And I'm assuming it was because of this premise of young people like to consume content on their phones. But I feel like there's content that people watch on their phones versus content that people watch on their computers.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
What content do you watch on your phone versus on your computer? Like, do you watch shows on your phone or do you only watch it on your computer? I'm curious.
I do not watch shows at all on my phone. The things that I watch on my phone will be like a tutorial, and YouTube is a great place for that, whether if like I'm cooking something or I'm outside and I want to learn something really quick, or it's something that's more in relation to a fast movement and moving along with me that I don't feel like a TV show will do. Because I feel like the kinds of content that Quibi was producing on their app, it was better for a laptop or a TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, I definitely watch YouTube on my phone. I will be on Instagram and other social media platforms on my phone. But for the most part, like when it comes to TV shows, I'm watching it either on my TV or on my laptop. And I think the times where I do watch shows is if I'm traveling. If I am on the train or on a bus, that's when I'll go in and look at those shows if I have a long ride or something like that. But if I'm just doing my everyday things at home, I'm going to just turn on my TV if I want to watch a show or be on my laptop. And I think in terms of what I use my phone for in terms of streaming, it's definitely like social media for the most part.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about traveling. Like, even when I was in high school, the only time I would use Netflix on my phone would be, oh, I'm on the bus ride home and there's nothing to do. Oh, I'm on a plane and I want to watch a movie. But to watch TV constantly on my phone, it's like a hassle because you have to hold it or the subtitles on. Do I have headphones? It's a whole thing. I think about how much free content we actually have access to, just like on your regular phone. I think that Quibi kind of messed up in terms of mixing social media and streaming services.
I'm curious, the opening lineup for April, did any of those celebrities or shows resonate with you?
I think the celebrities may have, but the show ideas, some of them I wouldn't have watched, but some of them I thought were pretty interesting. So I think the Chrissy Teigen one about where she was acting as a judge, I believe, That one, the premise would be funny in terms of entertainment. However, I don't know if that would have resonated with me personally in the shows that I like to watch. But having Chrissy Teigen on there, it reminds me more of Lip Sync Battle. Like, I guess I would just see her on a different type of show. And then Jennifer Lopez's show, I think the premise was good, but I don't know if that would have been something that caught my attention even on regular TV shows. I don't know. But I guess because it's 5 and 10-minute increments that maybe people could go back and watch and see. But I know with that type of setup, with that show, with her like giving back, I think a certain portions of her profits, like the community. I don't know if I would have followed up with that every week. I'm not sure.
And being that for the unscripted shows and documentaries, because that's also another aspect that I look into with streaming services, because that's a good way to find those types of like movies or shows. And just looking at the names like Skirt with Offset, The Sauce, it was just things I wasn't interested in. And it seems like this was producing like gimmicky content, not necessarily like informative or things we haven't seen before or things that we can get for free on Instagram or any social media for that matter. And especially with looking at how to market, I don't really feel like they had an exact audience that they could market to.
It seems like, I don't want to say random, but it almost comes across that way. Like they were kind of like, oh, here's a concept. Let's throw a celebrity in there and see what we can do with that. I would definitely echo the same sentiments that you guys have already shared, which is just like it was, I don't want to say misplaced, but it just didn't fit the way I think they really thought it would.
I think it goes to show how the huge jump to invest in some of these smaller startups shows there are so many other valuable products or even ideas that could be produced with this kinds of money, because $1.8 billion is a lot of money going to waste for the sake of content, especially with the time that we're in, given like with Corona and just so many other issues to be solved.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the idea was actually pretty good. I think it was different. However, I do think that they should have put a little bit more time and effort in just realizing what content they were going to produce and sticking with that, like having a niche and saying, okay, we are going to have these 10 to 15 minute videos. Let me produce quality content that will be attractive to my target market. I think they would have been more successful. Another thing about COVID, a lot of people had time on their hands, especially in the beginning. We definitely were viewing a lot of content on TV. And I think this could have really also been a good opportunity for them to launch this app because a lot of people were at home. They did want to see good shows, but I just think it was their content and because it was only available on your phone.
I definitely think that what both of you guys said about research, because I think had they had someone younger in the room to say, I wouldn't only watch it on my phone though. What's the point of that? It would have probably changed their whole marketing approach and possibly the success of the whole app. Or even to say, what's the point of only having celebrities on the shows? What makes me want to watch that if I'm 16, 17? Yeah, it might make me click on the video, but is it going to make me pay $4.99 a month every single month and keep using it? Probably not. And now that I'm actually thinking about it, they should have probably thought about it more like YouTube.
That's a great point. And I think especially with the idea of only having celebrities, it does not at all create perspective or diversify what's being put back into the market. And being that the founder, Jeff Katzenberg, he worked at Walt Disney and he was the chairman, you would think that there would be some kind of recognition of all of the discussions that have been in regard to inclusion and things of that nature. This could have been a great opportunity to provide so many creatives with the opportunity to produce new works and collaborate.
To the point about YouTube, like I definitely thought that it was almost similar to YouTube. They should have maybe focused on gaining new talent, people who are maybe popular up and coming YouTubers, and maybe offer them a contract and offer them more money. And maybe they would shift to Quibi and produce more content on Quibi versus YouTube. That could have been an angle they could have taken as well. Instead of taking the YouTube idea, they also could have had shows like variety shows or comedy shows, which you don't see much of, but I think it's really good in those 10 to 15 minute increments, or shows that kind of have like a cliffhanger at the end, like that gets you wanting to see more and come back. That I think was a missed opportunity on their end.
You three make really great points. And your point about celebrities and throwing A-list celebrities at something and assuming that, okay, we have these A-list celebrities, people are just going to flock to it, I do think is a very sort of played out approach to things. And it's not really a thoughtful way to approach a really crowded space. Having children and knowing like what they're watching on their phone versus what they're watching on their desktop. And I was like, if they're going to make people pay for something that they're only going to be able to watch on their phone, it needs to be something that they would normally watch on their phone, but better. Not take something that they watch on their desktop, make them pay for it, and only be able to watch it on their phone. Something is not congruent. You're talking about new and up and coming YouTubers. There are people that I watch on Twitter. For example, like Jay Nadaj, he does these funny Disney movies be like, Lifetime movies be like. And I am like, I can't wait for him to do the next one. He does this 90-second thing. And then you're kind of like, okay, what's going to happen next? So imagine if they had taken just a quarter of that production budget and Shasa, to your point, got some of these YouTubers or people who are on Twitter or people who are doing their content on Instagram and saying, hey, why don't you just exclusively do this for us? Who are some of your favorite social media people who are doing content on social media?
The first thing that comes to mind is like those people who do comedic skits on Instagram. I don't watch too many people right now, maybe like one or two. I can't remember anybody's name or handle.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's kind of like that too. It's funny. I had to go before this conversation, I had to go look up his name. But I'm like, I always know like how to find him.
Oh, there's this one Black girl from New York. She actually just moved to Atlanta. Her handle is, I think I am Cleopatra.
She's a comedian?
I wouldn't say she's a comedian, but she'll do takes on having a boyfriend or maybe like a relationship that's, oh, he's not paying your bills, but you're doing this and that, like type of content type thing. And it's funny because she's New York, so she'll be like throwing that in there.
I think for me, there's this girl, her name is Kennedy, and her page is called President Kennedy. And she'll go on live and she'll just be talking and just, it's like you're having a conversation with your friend or your girlfriends. Like as far as like comedic pages, Desi Banks, Yes Pretty V. I know there's a whole bunch. I just can't think of them.
What about you, Shasa?
Yeah, for me, I think a lot of the former Wild and Outcasts on their social medias, going on all their pages pretty much and just seeing the content that they post. And then also in terms of YouTubers, I know before, like this was like maybe a couple years ago, I would watch, speaking about Atlanta, like I would watch like Taylor Girls or Armand and Trey. A lot of prank videos. That was like my thing at one point. And then I also watch certain YouTubers who do a lot of makeup tutorials, hair tutorials, like a lot of natural hair influencers. And then also some lookbooks, Fashion Nova hauls, stuff like that. But I really can't pinpoint too many specific people. But if I see something like the Shade Room or something like that, I'll just look and be like, oh, that person's funny. But
yeah, definitely.
This also makes me think about the conversation of OnlyFans, how like some content creators have taken their content to there so that they can get paid for it. And it's not only just sexual content or anything like that. It's all kinds of things that have been taken to OnlyFans. There's been like some articles written about how social media can, what might it be in like 5 years or even 2 years with all of these exclusive streaming platforms coming out and being able to have ownership and make direct money off of it.
I was going to say, I don't know how difficult it is to make money on YouTube, but I know how difficult it is to grow a channel and things like that. So things like OnlyFans is like really great because you're able to monetize that content. If you're Kim Kardashian, that's super duper easy. You'll be like, here's my perfume, people will buy it. But if I'm just starting out and I know how to do, I don't know, I know how to bake cakes really well and I'm popular on Instagram because people like to watch me bake cake, I can monetize that in some way.
Especially with algorithms, it's become super hard to even create a larger audience and create more access to what you're putting out there because now the algorithm favors already made brands and celebrity and money because you can pay Instagram to promote your things.
That too.
So are you saying OnlyFans is leveling the playing field?
I don't know. I would say that. I definitely think the concept in and of itself is very important and something that more people should think about seriously, because if you're good at something, you should get paid for it. On OnlyFans, you can, I think, choose the fee, but whatever it is, that's all up to you. You can decide how much they're paying for this, how much they're paying for that. They can subscribe to you, I'm pretty sure, and all your content's right there. And you don't have to worry about this brand treating you X, Y, and Z way, and you're in charge of your finances.
These numbers are from May 2020 from Fox Business. It says that more than half of U.S. households are subscribed to Netflix, while more than a third are subscribed to Amazon Prime, which I think probably some of that is coming from the Amazon Prime subscription. And then more than a quarter are subscribed to Hulu, according to this survey. And then Disney Plus has about 50 million users, I think, worldwide. And Hulu's numbers are boosted by its partnership with Disney. And then you have HBO Max, you have Apple TV. Do you ever feel like there's so much content that you don't know what to watch?
I don't know if I would say that. I think sometimes with these streaming services, one of them may have one hit show that's an original that will attract people to their platform. But then there's also times where it's very dull across numerous platforms and you're trying to figure out what to watch. Or you'll watch like an old show, for example. I just feel like sometimes the content isn't always there. But I do think with platforms like Disney Plus, they have so much content, years worth, that's now released. Especially they didn't play a lot of these reruns like on their channel. They kind of waited. And I think that was smart because a lot of people did want to see that again. But then they also coupled that with new content, with Beyonce's contract, with Black is King and Hamilton being streamed on there. I think that was a major opportunity for them to get people of different demographics to come in and join. So I thought that was pretty impressive. But there could be an opportunity for them to create more content that people would like to see and make it more of an effort for people to have that mentality. Like, I need to go on Netflix every Wednesday because this drops, or, you know, something like that. A new episode of this is coming out. I think that's missing a little bit.
I actually feel the opposite. I feel like it's oversaturated, especially with Hulu. I feel I'm kind of considering if I should rid of Hulu at this point and just keep with Netflix and Disney Plus. But the great aspect about Netflix is they've definitely cornered the market with bringing back of old shows. Like Shasa, how you mentioned with Disney Plus, how I've been binging like half and half and one-on-one, and incorporating this idea of inclusivity.
Oh, yeah.
Creating smaller demographics within the larger service has been great. That's what I've enjoyed seeing. So I have a better direction of what I want to see and how I can get there faster.
I would definitely echo what you guys said. I definitely think at times it's quantity over quality, which is why you get that bouncing around in the first place. But mediocrity aside, which streaming service has the best content right now?
Netflix.
I'm going to have to give it to Netflix, yeah. I said that because I like the way that they do, like Tennille said, like just the community that it has within the larger community in terms of like strong Black lead, having this demographic of people watching new content, older content, gathering in that experience and that cultural experience, as well as them having a podcast that also further promotes that community within Netflix. I think that's very important now with brands in general. Like, it's not so much even about the product anymore, the service. It's about the feeling that evokes from your product or service, the community, the way you outreach your consumers and how you do it in a unique way. So I think a lot of the streaming services should take a look at that and say, hey, maybe I should have a collection like Representation Matters or the Black Lives Matter collection. And if I want to have this demographic, let me create content that reflects what they want to see and just not talking about it, but actually being about it. So I think that's very important too.
Especially to that point of engagement and how that's so critical in maintaining your consumers and creating more consumers. It's so important to make sure that there are new ways of sharing different types of information, because that's one of the things that has helped me stay with Netflix because of some of the new ways, like whether creating different Instagram pages, also being able to interact with different people of the cast on Twitter and just things of that nature. On Netflix, you can do like a party now, and that was a good implementation, being that we can't socially be together. So constantly
creating that community.
Mhm.
I was saying to a friend that I feel like your generation is missing their version of A Different World, which it's funny that you brought up A Different World. I'm 42. So, A Different World came out when I want to say like middle school. I can't remember how many seasons of A Different World there were, but it definitely followed me into high school. And I think for us, obviously it's a comedy. Obviously this is like a scripted show, but it made you feel like, oh my gosh, I want to go to an HBCU. We have definitely moved away from a time where we just have that one show. We can definitely have more than one show that has characters that are at a Black college, right? There's no shortage of shows that have an all-white cast where they're in high school or where they're in college. I think those things can exist on a multitude of platforms for this new generation. So to me, I feel like that's what's missing. I really like fantasy. I was a huge Game of Thrones fan, huge Harry Potter fan. I am ready for those things on screen with majority Black characters. I was all in with Lovecraft Country. I was all in. Like, I'm ready for that series, that epic, like in the same way Game of Thrones was this epic series that you cannot go someplace on a Monday and everybody's not talking about the Game of Thrones episode that happened the day before. I'm ready for that with majority Black characters. If you had to not necessarily create an entire lineup, but if you were like that executive and they're trying to target you, they're trying to target the young customer, what do you want to see? What do you feel is missing?
Just having, I think, a show that just encompasses young Black people in a positive light that isn't stereotypical, but just reflects probably who all of us are. Black people aren't monolithic. We're very diverse. So I just think representing us in that way again.
And I think a show for me would be, I rewatched Girlfriends, and seeing that as I'm entering that phase of my life of embarking on those paths in my career or relationships, I think it would be great to see a show of women who come from a multitude of backgrounds and engage in so many different activities. They have the same morals in the sense that they agree with some of the same things, but they also disagree with so many others. I think there needs to be more content of Black women specifically that don't just show us as the side or even the supporting actress, but speak to the other things that aren't always looked into. So definitely paying attention to the smaller details. And a great way for that would be to speak about a college student who might just be graduating. And that's for both Shasa and I as we step into post-COVID and what that's going to look like for us. So
yeah, definitely. And then also I wanted to add to your point, Tennille, talking about Girlfriends. One of my favorite shows is Living Single. And I just love how it just represented so many different types of Black women at different phases of their life. Like, I know I want to be an attorney one day. And I think part of that is because of Maxine Shaw.
Maxine Shaw.
Yes. And even like another thing I think that people don't speak about, a lot of these shows had like great fashions as well. Like they set trends. And I just feel like just seeing different trends that are happening, like all of that was a part of TV shows that I think needs to come back. And I know with Scandal, that was like the most recent show where I just love Olivia Pope and like what she wore. And then I saw she had a collection, I think in JCPenney's or Macy's after that. So just things that influence the culture indirectly, like ways that you wouldn't think of, even though the content is there. It's also other ways that psychologically impact us. If we see a woman on TV that is in a high position or who've broken glass ceilings, who is really excelling in their career, that impacts the community. So I think that's very important and needs to come back.
And it doesn't need to be in a generic way. Like, there are so many jobs that are never talked about that need to be shown and need to create a pathway for attainability just by seeing it. Thinking about how a show like we mentioned, Girlfriends, I wonder what the departure from creating Black shows of quality was. Like, when did they decide that?
It's funny when you were talking about the amount of money, the production budget that went into Quibi, the amount of money, like how many shows could have been. Because some of this stuff really isn't new. It's just
modernized.
Yeah. And so, for example, like one of the shows when I was growing up that was like very popular was Beverly Hills 90210. it was an iconic show. But so was Happy Days. For a certain generation, Happy Days, which had the Fonz, you probably wouldn't know it, but it was a very iconic show, I think, for people who were like teenagers in the 70s. Each generation has their own high school iconic show. Like, I feel like that needs to exist for Black people. You need a mainly Black cast dealing just like with high school stuff. That teen drama, angst, the prom, does he like me? There's a whole generation of Black kids who don't have a show. I at least had a different world. And I'm saying that there has been a gap for a really long time. You know what I mean?
And even shows like Sister and Moesha,
yeah.
Like those were, like, I was watching Sister on Netflix, just binge watching it. And it reminded me of some of the things that I dealt with, especially in that preteen and teen stage, right before I got to college. And it was just so relevant. It was so real. The episodes, the writing was very much reflective of what teens went through during that time. And a lot of that still applies today. Like, we go through the same things. I just think that's definitely needed as well. And you're right. Like, there was way more shows, especially for our culture, that had teens and college students. And I think that needs to definitely evolve just so a new generation can see that.
Yeah.
Maybe there should be other avenues that this Black talent presents himself, maybe on streaming platforms like YouTube, or could have been on a Quibi. I just think that there is a lot of opportunities. And with the recent passing of Chadwick Boseman, he was one of those people that were always casted, and now, like, he's gone. So, you know, you might have like the cast of Get Out and Black Panther, and that's basically like most of your Black actors in Hollywood right now. So, especially around that age group. So there's definitely a need for more Black actors and actresses around our age as well.
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been really interesting to hear all of your perspectives. I think this is really good, and even makes me think about how I want to think about how I'm continuing to develop my content, and just like having community and making sure that community is always a part of everything that I'm doing. So thank you.
Thank you for
having me. This was a great conversation.
We still have one more question. Don't leave yet. So, you guys, thank you so much for chatting with us. As you know, the podcast is curated by the Iconoclast Dinner Experience. It's your last night on Earth. Where are you eating?
If it's my last night on Earth, I would be eating probably a collection of my family's best dishes. I don't know. My family, I think, are like the greatest cooks in the world. So I would just eat my favorite meals like peach cobbler, baked macaroni and cheese, like soul food, and just eat that, and just exotic drinks, and just have a ball because, you know, it's our last night on Earth. So definitely my family. I think they're some of the best cooks, and I've had some of the best dishes I've ever had with my family. So
where is it and who's cooking it?
Where is it? In Philly. And who's cooking it? A combination of my mom, my aunts, myself, my cousins, like long traditional recipes, just cooking all of those things and just being in one space and having all those meals, kind of like Thanksgiving almost.
It would definitely have to be in a place of comfort with my mom, my aunts, and just family. But if it were to be a place, it would have to be soul food. And the last time that I went there, I was really shocked by them. It was Amy Ruth's, which is in Harlem. And I hadn't been in so long, and it was really good.
Thank you for listening to Impolite Conversation, the podcast, curated by the Iconoclast Dinner Experience. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Icon Dinner, and on the Iconoclast Dinner Experience Facebook page. Let us know what you thought about this episode. Hit us on socials or send us feedback at press@iconoclastdinner.com. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our podcast, and we'd also love it if you rated and reviewed us.